All right, so it seems like almost daily at this point, we've gone from small or unknown accessory manufacturers leaking supposed design for Switch 2s. We've gotten content creators getting 3D printed models sent to them from supposed Chinese accessory manufacturers, and then we have some big brands like Satisfy straight up launch a marketing campaign with a supposed Switch 2 render sitting in the Satisfy grip that they are marketing. Then we have a very clear look at a silicone case of a Switch 2, which was also exciting. And in yesterday's video, we talked about Dbrand, the biggest accessory manufacturer by far and away with the most reputation online outside of anybody else we've talked about, just straight up release a back look at the case with Kill Switch 2 in the background, and it was clearly in line with all of the previous leaks that we've looked at Nintendo Switch 2, with that U-shaped kickstand and the back trigger buttons to release the Joy-Cons. And later that same day, and you were watching this the day after, but we found out directly from their CEO, actual confirmation that that is a legit 3D scan of the actual Nintendo Switch 2. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's how they're getting their exact dimensions. We now have exact dimensions for this console, and a CEO of a massive company just confirming a lot of the talk and speculation that if you wanted to be kind of on the fence about this maybe not actually being the console's design, or maybe some certain details would be off, that appears to now be a question of the past. So we have a detailed written article to get through, and also a better look at this console than we've ever had so far, with Dbrand's own direct email me notification page for this case that will be called Switch 2 Kill Switch. So we're going to get on the same page with all of this info. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick it off by hopping over to the official Dbrand website, where they do have this 3D model render just floating around. We're going to go through the article where the CEO is directly quoted saying that yes, that is a legit 3D scan of the Nintendo Switch 2 that you were seeing in there. So no, not the physical console, but rather a 3D scan of the console, which does confirm exact dimensions, and there's not really any more question on, the button layouts, with everything lining up with that additional button on the Joy-Con. We know for sure that button now has a C on it. We know for sure it's that U-shaped style kickstand, which should also lead credence to the idea that we are going to have a larger dock like we saw in that leaked sketch of the Nintendo Switch 2, literally a hand-drawn sketch. And now, all of the different things like the back release buttons all coming into play here. And over on Dbrand's website, you can notify yourself to sign up for this if you are in the market for buying it. But yeah, the more interesting part from here is some exact specifics about this console from The Verge, where you can see their detailed type of article, which reads, the Nintendo Switch 2 as described by Dbrand. Dbrand's CEO tells us the company has actual dimensions of Nintendo Switch's successor. We were inspired to write this article in the first place because of Dbrand's just announced Kill Switch 2 case. The website for the product features an in-motion render of the case, and inside a mock-up of the hardware that has some key differences from the Switch and Switch OLED. The new console appears to be larger, and it has a mysterious new second button on the right Joy-Con under the home button. Accessory leaks over the past several days have shown similar potential designs for the hardware. It seems Dbrand is reasonably confident in its case, but we asked CEO Adam Ejaz to be sure, if that's how you say his last name, Ejaz, we're gonna go with Ejaz. He says Dbrand has actual dimensions, not an educated guess, based on a 3D scan of the real hardware. When we asked how he knows that, Ejaz only said, nice try, Nintendo. Based on Dbrand's measurements, the next Switch, which we'll call the Switch 2, will both be larger and taller than Nintendo Switch OLED, but roughly the same thickness. Nintendo's spec sheet shows its previous handheld is 242 millimeters wide, 102 millimeters tall, and 13.9 millimeters thick, whereas Ejaz says the Switch 2 should measure 270 millimeters wide, 116 millimeters tall, and 14 millimeters thick, with the console portion taking up 200 millimeters worth of that total width. Ejaz also says the kickstand will still measure around half the console's height at around 55 millimeters. A diagonal measurement of the cover glass supports previous rumors that it'll have an 8-inch screen. Ejaz says his understanding is that the Joy-Cons are magnetically attached with an eject button that's on the back of the Joy-Cons near the top, and his new case takes advantage of the detachable controllers. He says the controller portions of Dbrand's case can detach with them inside. He doesn't doesn't know what the second square button is under the home button, which he says has a C printed on it. The left Joy-Con in Dbrand's mockup still has a button on the left Joy-Con, which is where you'll find the capture button on the original Switch, so it's unclear if the C button now means capture or if both buttons work differently. Ejaz says the joystick stands 6.27 millimeters tall and the D-pad and ABXY buttons protrude by 1.57 millimeters with a 180 millimeter wide kickstand and back triggers that extend 9.1 millimeters. While Dbrand does seem to know a lot about the console, Ejaz is genuinely unsure about its potential release date. He says that Dbrand is working towards a late March or early April release for its case though. Ejaz also doesn't know about Nintendo's possible TV dock for the Switch 2, but says that Dbrand's assumption is that the form factor will be similar to the previous gen. He doesn't know if the screen will be LCD or OLED. Now, they also point out in the article that Dbrand is kind of known for poking fun at companies, and whenever they released this special edition Triforce skin right after Nintendo came out with the special edition Zelda OLED, kind of a middle finger to Nintendo, if you will. They're known to really push the boundaries like this. This is kind of part of how they market their company. Whether you agree or disagree with it, that's up to you. But nonetheless, it is a CEO of a massively successful accessory manufacturing company just going on record and saying exactly how they have the dimensions from a 3D scan of the actual Nintendo Switch 2 and confirming the exact dimensions online for us to review. So yeah, Nintendo's going to probably be rethinking who they share this kind of information with in the future on upcoming console releases past Switch 2. But for now, we do have what appears to be a finalized look at the dimensions and kind of what to expect from this console. And the big mystery button is that C button. Does it mean capture? Does it mean cast? I've seen that floated around in my comments section and other content creators online. Like, is there that world where I believe there was a patent we saw at one time where it showed Nintendo kind of casting a screen from some type of device to the TV, and could that be the Switch 2? Would the dock be powerful enough to have some kind of Wi-Fi direct connection, and that's how you could play a two-screen experience like your DS games, for example, emulation on NSO? I don't think that we're going to necessarily see that in the next gen console, but it would be a really cool feature and actually solve for the issue of playing 3DS games on NSO, which Nintendo will need to solve for at some point in time. But then you start to think about things like battery life and the logistics and the likelihood of that actually being a feature, and I'm less confident in it. Chat or something to that effect seems a little bit more likely, especially since we now know that the console will have a microphone it built into it itself. So I do think that online chat is going to be a thing, and maybe that's just, or community, it's a community hub that you pull up that allows you to direct message your friends, also get into a party chat with your friends, and maybe it's all tied to that, and the capture button is still over there on the left Joy-Con. But community is another kind of idea that I like, just thinking of what that C button could be. But there's going to be definitely some new function. But if you think all the way back to some of the reports we were hearing from Vandal when they said Nintendo came by with essentially an opaque box that they were allowed to put their hands into to feel the dimensions of the Switch 2, and they learned about the magnetic attaching Joy-Cons then, and Dbrand has this same kind of information, but apparently at some point 3D scans of the console were sent out to accessory manufacturers, which probably lines up with when we started seeing all of those CAD renderings leak online. And now you have so many different sources and massive name brand sources all having the same button layouts, all having the exact same dimensions. This isn't Nintendo simply trolling or throwing off, users out there on what the actual design of the next gen console. This is them briefing their partners to get them ready for accessories, and the partners are indeed leaking this information, or in some cases just trying to capitalize on all of the eyeballs and hype on Switch 2 right now and get their products out there and advertised a bit too early. But at this point, it seems like we have a good look at the Nintendo Switch 2 from a 3D render standpoint and the dimensions of the exact console. What do you make of this? Are you excited that it's literally a bigger Switch and going to be more powerful? Are you wanting something different? What do you think that C button does? Is that community? Is that capture? Is that chat? Like, what idea would you like to see Nintendo implement from a function standpoint for that particular button? And out of all the accessory manufacturers we've seen leak this information online, are you pre-ordering any of these, like a Satisfy Grip or this Dbrand case? And what do you think about the accessory manufacturers beating Nintendo to the punch in terms of actually revealing official console hardware dimensions and details like that. So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.